Hi, welcome to FoundedPy videos. This is DC here. This is video number 5 on Mifare Classic RFID tags. This and the next few videos I'll be showing you how to use access rights. It is very important that you understand access rights. Now we know that every block in a Mifare Classic tags has got an access right, and that access right is stored within the sector block. So what I meant is, in the last previous videos we have seen any sector will have the read blocks, and it has got one block which is called as a sector trailer, and the access rights for all these blocks including the sector trailer is stored within the sector trailer. So there are two things here: the access rights related to the data blocks or reader blocks, or the access rights related to the sector trailer. So in order to make this concept access rights easier for you, so I'm going to take you in a different path, and I would advise you to follow the videos in the way I have made here so you can understand access rights. So this is the table from the data sheet, and we have to understand this table. Now I'm going to separate out the access rights for the read block. So in this video I'll be showing you, or I'll be making you understand the access rights for all the things related to reader blocks. The next video I'll be explaining you the access rights for the value block, and probably a video after that I'm going to explain the access rights of the sector trailer. Now in my first video I've showed you what exactly this access rights 000 is. This is also called as a transport configuration. Any brand new tag comes with this configuration, and most often when you use this Mifare tags in any project you will not see any cards with this configuration. So we'll not discuss about that. What about the next one? So when the access rights bit of a reader block is 010, which is the decimal 2, this line or this row tells you what you can do and what you can't. The way you understand this row is to ask yourself the question. Now we know there are 4 operations you can do on any block. I would say 4 category of operations: read, write, increment, and all these 3: decrement, transfer, restore. Now we know that all these collections, this is all related to the value block, which we'll not discuss now. So ask yourself a question: when the access right is set to 010, how to read that block? To read the block you have to use either key A or key B authentication. How about writing? You can never write, you can never decrement and never increment and never decrement, transfer or restore. So what this line basically means here is, if a data block, or sorry, I keep on calling data block, so this is a reader block. So when the block has got access rights 2, you can only read. So if you ever want to make a block read only, if you set the access rights to 2, it becomes read only completely. So you cannot, you can see a no write is possible. So this is like a read only setting. We are done with that. So next thing is this one, 100. This is decimal 4. Now ask yourself these questions: can you read? Yes, we can. If you see any entry here, that means that tells you what key authentication is required. Yes, I can read using either key A or key B. How about write? Not to write, I have to authenticate with key B. So here you can use 2 different keys, one key A for reading and key B for writing. This is very common in the software projects. Can you increment and decrement? No, these two are not at all possible because these are all related to the read-write blocks. How about the next one? 110. So this is decimal 6. Now can you read? Yes, you can read using either key A or key B. How about writing? You can write. Sorry, I was wrong here. We'll not discuss this here because this video is all about the access rights for a read-write block. This one. So when the block has got access right 010, that is decimal 3. Can you read? Yes, we can, but using key B. You have to authenticate with the key B. For writing, you have to again authenticate with key B. So here, the key B is used for both read and write. The key A is completely not used here at all. What about increment, decrement? These two are not possible because this is a value block. Sorry, this is a read-write block. How about next one? When the read-write block or a block has got access rights 101, that is a decimal 5. So here also I can read using key B and I can not write. I cannot do the increment and decrement. So here, just like we saw in here, so this also makes a block read only, but you have to use key B. So in these two configurations for 3 and 5, the key A is never used. So what will you do when key A is never used? Probably you can use key A to store whatever application data you want. And there are a few reasons to do that, because key A is never ever readable. So the next configuration is all 111. If it's a decimal 7. Now if a data block is set to this, you can't do anything. You cannot read, you cannot write, you cannot increment and decrement. Now the question is, what is the use of these types of blocks? Again, it depends on your software design. So assume that you have used this Mifare Classic tag in a software project, and this comes with a huge memory, say 1024 bytes. Then assume that you have used just say 2 sectors of space for your project, and what are you going to do with the remaining 14 sectors? If you leave it just like that, somebody can use it, can write or try to destroy that. So if you just want nobody to do anything with this unused space, you can set all these blocks to access right 7. So again, it all depends on your software design. Now, so this is the theory, and if you understood this theory, then you don't have to watch the rest of the videos, because in the remaining part of the video I'm going to just go through this step by step. I'm going to show you that it is indeed all this, whatever the documentation says, we are going to prove that it works. You can see here I've connected my ACR122 reader writer, and because there is no tag on the reader, you can see the LED light shows red. I made some nice videos on how to change this LED light and how to work with the buzzer as well. So I'm going to use the same card we used in my previous videos. So I might have changed the keys back to factory. If you hit go, you can see while the reading is going on, the reader flashes green, and on the screen the yellow color shows the current the current sector that is been authenticated. So here the software is ready with the sector 0 authenticated. So what we saw in the previous in the earlier part of the video was the table where you can modify the access rights. Now keep in mind, all this access sets information is present in the sector block, the block 3 here and block 3 here. Okay, now the sector block must be in a state where it can be modified. In other words, you can change the access rights of all these blocks only when the sector trailer is in a writable state. So that's the reason I mentioned before. The access rights, it looks complex, but if you study in a proper order, it becomes easier. Now, for a brand new tag, the sector trailer is in access rights 1, which you know that it's writable, it's readable, it's writable using the authentication key A. Now we have already authenticated with key A, and let's try to play with that. Now in the previous videos we have got these two blocks which have been configured with the value block format. First I'm going to change that and make them all zeros. Or if you don't want to do this, you can do this exercise in sector number 1. Say right, that's gone. So as soon as you click here, the data is auto populated in this section. And say right. Okay, so now we have got two blank read and write blocks. Now we are going to I'm going to use or set this in access rights to value 2. That's what we discussed first. In value 2, you can basically this is going to make as a read only block. So I'm going to put some data before I do that. Now I'm going to type okay, so I'm going to write this in a block number 2 because that's been highlighted here. Say right. Now that's written, and then I'm going to change the access rights. Now in this software, the access rights of data blocks can be changed using this section here. So it says the current access rights is 0. I'm going to new access rights, I want that to be 2. If you find some helpful information, it says data block R means read only, so it becomes read only, can't write. So I'm going to make a change. This is a warning message here. Now you can see the access rights set to 2, and you can also see the various the commands that are used, and these commands are the pn532 command. So we have just made this block 2 as a read only. So I'm going to reactivate, take it out, now try to modify this data block. Here the software does not let you do that, so we need a different software that lets you modify and show that you cannot. So I'm going to use the A0122 Made Easy software. So in the new version of the software, I'm going to play with that again. So I know that the sector 1 has got a key of A0, A1, A2, A3, A4 and A5. I can authenticate. So authentication is fine because the key value matches, but if you try to read, it fails because the table says in order to read you must have the authentication done using key B. In this software, the authentication and read sector are done in 2 different steps, whereas the other software, that's all done in a single step. So next I'm going to show you how to use the access rights phi. So in phi, if you click here, So while in phi, this also related data block. So this becomes a read-only block, but in order to read, you have to authenticate with B. You have to be very careful when you start playing with these access rights for data blocks. You can't have two blocks with the conflicting access rights. So first I'm going to authenticate sector 1 using this key B. I'm going to do that. Now here I'm going to use the block number 1 and set this as a read-only block. Before doing that, probably I would like to put some data here. Call this as say we'll just stick with the standard. So all other thing is space. So probably I can also say it's a read-only block. So I can write it, then go to data block. So from the current access right 0, the new access rights I want that to be as phi. Now for some reason, okay, you can't see this. Okay, so I think this is where the trick is now. Now what has happened here is the sector trailer is not writable, because the sector trailer is in configuration 1, which means it needs, in order to modify that, it needs authentication with the key A in order to read and write. So this is the trick. This is something you'll come across when you start playing with access rights. So most often you will end up making a design document or a plan on how to set this up. So now we are in a situation where I want to change the value of the access rights, but I cannot do that because I need to authenticate key A. So if you authenticate with key A, you cannot read this data block. So this is the conflicting access conditions now. Now I know how to fix that, but because this is a tutorial for you to learn, so I want to make this easier. Okay, so we know now we are in a big problem because we are in a conflicting access rights. But what I'm going to show you now, it's a bit of advanced, but I'm sure you like this thing. So I'm going to use this new version of the software. I'm going to activate. So I'm going to set this. I'm going to authenticate with the B0, key B, because that's how we got the access right set to. Authenticate. I'm going to read. Now I have to modify this sector trailer. To do the modification, I need to authenticate with the A. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to reset this sector trailer back to factory. So I'm just going to show how to do that. I'm going to bring the sector, maybe sector 2. I know sector 2 is still in factory setting. Authenticate, read. So I got my sector 2 data. See, this is the contents of the sector trailer for the brand new tag. Now I'm going to copy this whole lot into here. Now, so go back to, again we'll be working on with sector 1. So I have to go to sector 1, authenticate that with the key A. So I know the key A was A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. Authenticate is fine. Now I have made a sector trailer as writable. I'm going to write this entire sector, but before I do that, I'm going to put this values as well. And I'm going to bring all these default values back here, 07. Like I'm going to make this sector trail as if it's a brand new tag, 80 and 69. I'm going to keep everything as is. Say write. Now write is successful. If I try to read this tag again, I'm going to show you what you want to see. So go to sector 1, authenticate and say read. So we are able to read. So what we have to do now here is I have to set the access rights 3 and probably what these access rights. So if you remember, we are playing with these two access rights. So I'm going to set the access rights of two different blocks, okay, in the same write operations. So I think only then this is going to work. So here back into this old software, I have read the sector 1 using key A. So now because I've used key A for authentication, I've got the sector trailer writable. Now what we tried to do just before this was, we have changed the value of the block 0 to hello something. We changed the value of the block 1 to hello read only. Now I want the access rights of the first block. I want that to be 3. Then I want the access rights of the second block to be changed from 0 to supposed to be 5, read only. Okay, so now we got exactly what we wanted to, what we tried to do. We want to use a key B for reading, and we also made the block 0 both read and write using key B, and we made block 1 as read only using key B. Now I'm going to try this thing. So if you try to authenticate with this software, the read should fail. The read failed. So if I try to authenticate using the key B, we are able to read. So if you try to change the value of the first block, which is in access set 3, where I can write as well. Here I can write. So write is successful. If I try to do again, look at that, the software here, remember this is read only, so it stops you from writing. So in the new version of the software, where you can edit anything. So let's try to modify the block number 1, which is set to access rights 5. So I'm going to try to set all these to zeros and try to write. Now write failed, and we know the reason is the access rights 5 does not let you write. It made the entire block read only. So whereas I can go and modify the other one, say write. Now this is now writable. So we have got one more access rights to discuss here. In the data block, the access rights with the value 7, which makes this data block completely hidden. So you can't read, cannot write, cannot do increment and decrement. Now I've chosen the next sector number 2. Again you have to be very, very careful when you use these type of settings. If you mix and match here, so you may not be able to read this entire sector. Now this software try to read the entire sector and decides whether success or failure. But if you try to read a block at a time, then probably you can have block 2 as non-readable, block 1 as readable, and block 1 as read and write. Anything is possible. So I want to make all these three sectors as hidden or with the access right 7. So the way you do that is change that to 7, change, go to each block, change that to 7, change that to 7. Okay, so now we have set everything to 7. Now if you try to probably read, now the read fails. So because this software tried to read entire sector, all the 4 blocks of the sector. See, even though the authentication is successful, you cannot read the data blocks. So I'm going to show you how exactly this works in the new version of the software. So activate, I'm going to go to sector number 2. The authentication successful, but if you try to read, the read will fail. So you can see now none of these blocks are able to read. I think so that's all in this video. So what we discussed in the video is we tried all the access rights of a data block. Now we understood how these access rights work, and also keep in mind before you decide on access rights, you must think about your design. So otherwise, we just saw in this video, you can make this you can have a conflicting access rights and make the sector non-readable. Okay, thanks for watching.